Hello and welcome back to Shakesyear. We are working on the sonnets, and today we've got Sonnet 94, which goes, "They that have power to hurt and will do none, that do not do the thing they most do show, who moving others are themselves as stone, unmoved, cold, and to temptation slow, they rightly do inherit heaven's graces, and husband nature's riches from expense. They are the lords and owners of their faces, others but stewards of their excellence. The summer's flower is to the summer sweet, though to itself it only live and die. But if that flower with base infection meet, the basest weed outbraves his dignity, for sweetest things turn sourest by their deeds. Lilies that fester smell far worse than weeds." So this is an interesting one, and especially where it comes in the order of the sonnets, it's one that I'm having a little bit of trouble wrapping my brain around, because it doesn't directly speak to the fair youth or about the fair youth. This is one that you could, just take it out and plunk it down somewhere else and try to look at it and figure out what's being said here. Though a lot of the analyses that I saw of it are still applying this to the fair youth and saying that this is like a bit of a cautionary tale being told to the fair youth. But then there's also debate in the analyses as to whether this is straightforward or is it like sarcastic and ironic. Because he starts out by saying that people who have the ability to hurt other people in one way or another and don't do that are the ones who are going to inherit heaven, basically. They are the most righteous, they are the best. But he also says about those same people that what's great about them is that they are emotionless, that they are unmoved, that they are stone, that they are cold, that they are frigid, all of these sorts of things. So one might look at that and say, well, are those really the qualities that we should be emulating in order to get to heaven and be in God's good graces? But then for the last few lines of the poem, he switches to talking about flowers and saying, flowers are so lovely and they make the summer so lovely. But, the flower doesn't know that it's doing that. The flower is just living and dying. And if the flower happens to get infected with something, then weeds become prettier than the flowers. If you smell a rotten lily versus you smell a weed, the rotten lily is going to smell worse than the weed does, which actually, depending on the weed, you never know. So it feels like there are these two different parts. He's talking about people who are cold and unmoved, and he's talking about flowers that are rotting. And it's interesting to try to put the two of them together. And it might be helpful if you throw in the thread of the fair youth and say, the fair youth being cold and unmoved is the one who everybody is doting upon, but then shifting the metaphor from the fair youth being like a person with a heart of stone to being a flower who makes everybody else more beautiful, but is infected by the people around him, which is a theme from some of the recent previous sonnets. That might be what's maybe tying that together, and why some of the analyses are saying that this is actually a poem about the fair youth. But whether or not you think this is one to or about the fair youth, it is kind of a cautionary tale thing. On the one hand, if you take it at face value, saying that people who have the ability to hurt others and don't, that's a good thing. Like maybe, that is a good thing to look out for, and a cautionary, you could destroy me because I love you, but if you choose not to do it, then God's going to love you even more, sort of a thing. And then also switching to the flower, the flower has to still maintain its purity and its virtue to be beautiful and to be loved and to be appreciated by all the people around. So I don't know if I helped make any sense out of this poem at all, but I would love to hear what you think. Is this about the fair youth? Should it be taken at face value? Is it sarcastic, saying, people should have emotions? That's the better way to go? I don't know. What do you think? Leave me a comment. I'll see you tomorrow for Sonnet 95. Mwah.